mean, I would work all-nighters. One time I worked 36 hours straight. It was just crazy. At that time, our shop, the building that we were in, didn't have any windows. It was just completely dark in there. And I thought it was midnight, and I go outside and it's like noon, I was just so like out of my mind. So I think if you don't give yourself the option to quit, then you can't, and you have no choice but to go forward. I mean, I was always a very kind of odd artistic child, so it's kind of been a lifelong pursuit. I guess one of my earliest memories as a child was my parents taking me to the original movie Star Wars, like when it first came out in 1979. I was 4 years old. My parents brought me to go see it in the theater, and it just had such a huge impact on me, particularly like the cantina scene. It's this entire bar full of all these aliens, and just really blew my mind. And my parents explained to me that, these aliens, they're not real aliens, they're things that people made, like artists made these props, and that just really fascinated me. So if somebody is getting paid to make these things, I started thinking, maybe that can be me, why not me?
I mean, we're a collective of artists. We just want to make cool stuff, trying to use the biggest ideas that we can cram into this little building. So sometimes we forget that it's a business, which is awesome.
It's someplace between a machine shop and a kindergarten classroom.
I would probably say, it's like a little warehouse that has a lot of creepy stuff. As soon as I walked in, I was like, yeah, this is, I've never seen anything like this, so.
I've been working here for so long. It's like normal to me.
It's kind of like a crazy mannequin world, I guess,
You would think it's just seasonal, but the fact that we're like busy all year round is really cool.
Especially when August and September comes around. I mean, I'm sprinting through the studio, like with hair and glue. But you take a week off and you're like, well shoot, like what are we working on now,
And like the scale of it too. You can get a 10-foot monster, then you can also get like a little something that's cute,
Having that freedom and the be able to just dream something and let it come to life and share that. Being able to share those ideas and experiences with strangers and people I love and enter the zeitgeist of the rest of the world, it's a lot of fun, and I take great pride in being a part of it.
One day, I discovered this book by an artist named Tom Savini. And Tom Savini is one of the first special effects guys. He did the original Friday the 13th movie, a bunch of other films after that, and he just kind of created all these techniques. And he actually had this book called Grand Illusions. And this book, it was just a how-to of, how to do this stuff, how to sculpt and how to make molds and how to do life casts of people. And that book really just absolutely changed my life. That's kind of really where I learned the kind of professional techniques of how to do this stuff. And, I kind of went from, just making things out of paper mache and masking tape and cardboard in my parents' basement to, making things out of clay and latex in my parents' basement. I grew up in a small town. It was called Coldwater, Ohio. Basically just a farming community. It just seemed like, kind of like an impossible goal, almost like a professional athlete or a rock star or something. But, I just kind of kept at it, and I got a scholarship to go to art school. It's kind of funny, like in art school, you think it's going to be very free and creative, but the first few years at the Columbus College of Art and Design, at least at that time, were very strict and structured, and they made us take so many anatomy classes. So it really pounded the knowledge of human anatomy into me, and that's something I definitely utilize every day. Eventually, I got a job, at the Scare Factory doing this. Yeah, I guess that was probably really the first time that someone actually paid me to do this art. And I mean, just the nature of this artwork, it is a very expensive endeavor. Dreaming of being an artist. I didn't know anybody in the entertainment industry, and in a lot of ways, the Scare Factory was my dream job. That was such a huge thing for me. I was so proud of myself when I got that job, and when I left there, I was the art director. I was kind of doing all the artwork, and it was a good job. And I was able to pay my bills and make a living, but there was just something pushing me, something always kind of calling me. And honestly, when I accepted that job, on the first day, I knew that ultimately I would be leaving someday to start my own company. And to walk away from that, from my dream job, it was, a very scary thing. But the appeal of just being my own boss and being out on my own and having 100% ownership of the company, that just was very appealing to me. And I don't know, it was kind of in the early 2000s. And I don't know, it might sound kind of crazy, but back then, this was just a few years after 9/11. And 9/11 was just a really crazy event back then. 2001, I can still remember that day. It was so shocking, and it really made me feel like, anything could happen at any time. My world can just completely change at a moment's notice. And I think that really started getting, the fire was always there to start my own company, but that really kind of got it going. Honestly, I was kind of young. I didn't know what I couldn't do at that time. Maybe I felt like I was getting older too, because I think I had turned 26. For some reason that just, I kind of realized, I'm not going to be in my 20s forever. And if I'm going to do this, it needs to be now. A lot of people talk about beginner's luck. And I think it is a thing, but I think it's more of people who are beginning in something, they just, they don't know what they can and can't do. They don't know the rules. So I think that's had a lot to do with me going out on my own and getting this company set up. Was just because I was just young and full of energy and not 100% understanding all the consequences of everything. But I think that's the time to do it when you're young and you have your whole life ahead of you. If you fail and don't succeed, it's not the end of the world. You can still kind of recover from it. Yeah, then when I went out on my own, finally, I almost had to start all over again. I was back to that college student, going to my first trade show. And at that time in the early 2000s, it was very difficult to rent any kind of commercial studio space. We would get rejected so many times. When we did finally secure that first space, which was actually Unit 70, it was a small, garage-sized space in a kind of a large industrial complex. Just had Unit 70 spray painted on the outside of the door. So we thought that would be a a good name for the company. After that last day of the Scare Factory, the following day on my own, I just went to work in that studio and just lived there basically. I mean, it was just every waking hour I spent in there. It was like being in art school when I felt a responsibility to my parents and myself, because I knew that, you know, they were paying and I was paying for this education and I wanted to get the most out of it. I knew that this was my kind of my one chance. This is the one time in my life where I can just focus on creating a business, and you know, I really just did that. You know, I put that ahead of everything else. You know, ahead of my friends, ahead of my family. That was just my singular focus in life, was just to create this company and get it off the ground and just get to that first trade show in 2003. First year of Unit 70 was very difficult. It was really hard to plan because you know, I didn't know if I would have income. And there was one point where it was kind of early summer that first year, and I'm just kind of sitting in the shop waiting for the phone to ring. And I mean, my bank account was getting very, very low. And I was kind of to the point where, yeah, I was kind of just wondering if maybe I'd made a mistake and if I need to pull the plug on this thing and get a real job, quote unquote. And I heard about this trade show, or this, I guess a convention. It was called Wonderfest in Louisville, Kentucky. So I loaded up my parents' minivan and got a hotel room and basically spent my last dollar, you know, buying a table at this trade show in Louisville. It was a two-day show. It's on like, I think, Saturday and Sunday, and it was just a disaster. I did not sell anything. I think on the last day, somebody looked at one of my pieces and they're like, $75 for that? Like, why would anyone pay any money for that? And it was just really discouraging. But while I was going to the bathroom, I look over and, you know, in this public bathroom in the convention center, and I see a guy, and he looks very familiar to me, and I'm thinking, God, that guy, he looks just like Tom Savini, this guy that wrote this book, you know, that I read in, you know, high school, and that I learned all this stuff from. And I'm just staring at him, and I just kind of ask him, I'm like, are you Tom Savini? And he's like, yeah. And I don't know, they say never to meet your heroes, but it was just a turning point in my life. Like, Tom was just such a nice guy, and you know, came over to my booth and just was really encouraging and just really liked everything. So I was really happy that I met Tom Savini. You know, that was, to me, that was worth it, you know, going to that show. I knew I didn't have any money. I was going to be broke, and I was probably going to have to get a real job when I got back to Columbus. So I just kind of, you know, when you're at a trade show and it's going bad, the worst thing you can do is pack up and leave early. So I didn't want to do that. So I just decided I was going to sit it out, you know, wait till the end of the show, and then, you know, lick my wounds and go home. So the last Sunday, it's maybe the last, I don't know, there were maybe 2 hours left of the show. And Tom Savini comes over to my booth, pulls out a big wad of cash, and I mean, just starts buying, you know, all these props that I have. It was just amazing. I mean, just an amazing feeling to sell, you know, your artwork to your idol, the guy that taught you how to do this stuff. And so he grabbed a bunch of my props, walked through the trade show back to his booth, and I think just everyone there seeing Tom Savini with my stuff, you know, something just clicked, and I mean, I just got swarmed. You know, people came over, and I just sold everything that I had. And then, you know, after that, then the haunted house orders started coming in, and then slowly over the years, you know, instead of just being booked a few months out, you know, now we're booked almost a year out. So it's kind of a real job, and you know, it's not a week to week kind of struggle anymore. But he has moving eyes, he blinks, multiple neck and head side to side kind of axes and movements. But if we want to set him off again, you guys can see open the eyes. This muscly membrane thing, this is silicone here, so it's nice and stretchy. There was a point early on where it was just me. You know, I was the only person at the company, so I was doing everything. I was answering the phone and welding and doing all, like, every part of this job. I mean, I would work all-nighters. One time I worked 36 hours straight. It was just crazy. And at that time, our shop, the building that we were in, didn't have any windows. It was just completely dark in there. And I thought it was midnight, and I go outside and it's like noon, you know. I was just so like out of my mind, just losing it, because I just had worked way too long. And it just kind of got to the point where I got busy and, you know, I needed to hire other people. And now, you know, I have all these really wonderful employees, and to be honest, I think that they're better at the individual parts of the process that they do. They're better at it than I am. They have more experience at this point than I do. And I kind of stay out of the way and let them do their job and kind of jump in as needed.
I think they gave me the title of lead mechanical designer. I'm not sure what that means, but I take steel and I bring it to life. Just latex and foam skins, and I fit them onto a metal skeleton that already has cylinders and pneumatics built into it. The best part about my job is making these raw materials have this life that comes about when you see these things when they're done. They have personality and character, and they become this thing that just evokes your imagination.
I've been working here for a long time, since 2008. As long as I'm getting everything done, that's all that matters pretty much, and that's all I need. Like, there's no stress, like, oh, like all this craziness or anything like that. It's just like,
It's not super challenging working here. Not to say that it's easy, but it's pretty like chill actually, you know.
I always say it's kind of like knowing when to stop, because I want to make things look amazing, but I do know that we have a deadline. I do know that, you know, this is a business. So it's kind of finding that fine line of, you know, let's make it as good as we can and also get to the other customers at the same time.
I mean, these processes have been around for a while, and you know, I was really into special effects and stuff, and this is not dissimilar to a special effect kind of process, you know, reproducing things. And I'll latex like a stone mold, UltraCal 30 mold. I will latex it, I will foam it and pull it out, trim it. If I gotta add the gore, I'll add the gore. But a lot of pieces, parts, you know, the giant heads or big molds, you know, I do a lot of the latex and foam applications is kind of where I specialize, I guess. But then again, I'm also doing shipping and, you know, putting stuff on pallets, and that's a challenging thing because you want it to get there. And even though you see the pallet go out the door on the truck, I'm still thinking about it. Hopefully it gets there, and if you don't hear a word from the client, then we did a good job, kind of sometimes.
so this is just like an arm from one of our props. So what I do is we have molds of like each part of like a sculpture. So like what I do is I go and cut the steel and bend the steel. And I think the creativity is to figure out how to actually build the structure, build the prop.
One of the reasons that our props hopefully stand out is the fact that, I guess maybe first and foremost, the people who work here and myself as the owner, we're artists. You know, we come from an art background.
I've heard that it's our blood. I mean, I've heard that it's kind of notorious. But I also think that we're all just trying to make things that are really epic. Like, Bo is definitely a draw for that, and motivation and inspiration for all of us, I think. And then as soon as he comes in with a new idea, it's like, yes, let's freaking do this, you know, let's make this happen. Like,
Because I think if we were putting out shabby stuff, people wouldn't be getting it, but you know, we have waiting lists, so I think we're doing something all right.
I feel like it's the attention to detail. The molds themselves are very intricate. The paint jobs really help things look lifelike. I'd say it's the realism, which is kind of like the uncanny valley effect of if something looks human but not quite human, then our brain is unsettled by it.
I think the stuff that we make here, it takes people out of the world that they're in all the time. it's got this detail and personality, and the visual experience that you get, it sticks with you. It reminds you of dreams that you had as a kid. It reminds you of movies you've seen and all the things that you don't get to experience in the real world. And it pulls you into your imagination. It's a little bit dreamy.
Getting to do something as unique and niche as this every time I clock in is really, really awesome. And just having the coworkers that I have are really nice too.
There's no stress at all. It's just, we all know what we're doing pretty much. Yeah, we have a great team.
This place is special to me because I've been working with at least 4 of these people for a very long time. And we've got a system and rhythm to how we work here. It's reached a point of refinement.
But it kind of has reinforced that in the art field, community is everything. I mean, you cannot make something by yourself. You have to have a collective to bounce ideas off. You know, I think we're always kind of rooting each other on when we're coming across something challenging, and definitely bouncing ideas off of each other constantly.
Well, I think one of the most important things that you can do when you're starting out is to not really have another job. When I first started this, people would ask me, is this your full-time job? And I always said yes, because it was. I quit my job and I started it. And I thought about, maybe I could work somewhere else and try to do this at the same time. But if you don't believe in yourself, then I don't think anybody else will either. You have to totally commit. And I think that's what doing it full time and not having like a day job, so to speak, like that shows people that you really believe in yourself. And if they call you up, this is my job, is to focus on you and your business and the work that you've hired me to do. And also it's kind of a sink or swim kind of philosophy. Over the years, especially at the beginning, there were some really dark times in Unit 70's history where things got really tight and difficult. And honestly, I may have quit if I had a lifeline, but I didn't. This was my only thing. I was doing this full time, so I had no choice but to go forward, even when I didn't want to. So I think if you don't give yourself the option to quit, then you can't, and you have no choice but to go forward.
It's been pretty much my favorite job I've ever had. You get to experience ideas and things that are not necessarily of this world.
Thinking about how he started this from nothing to this being like a full warehouse of things that he's fully created, I have such an appreciation for his creativity and his drive.
Being able to see someone make something of themselves through art it's inspiring.
Dedication and passion moves things forward. So I see that a lot in Bo and how hard he works.
You can tell he takes a lot of pride and care to what he wants to send out to each person who's buying his stuff. I'm really grateful to be a part of this team. I've learned a lot. It's the coolest job I've had.
I think, there's a certain standard of, excellence at this place, and I don't want to go anywhere else.
I don't know if we have a plan. He's always got things cooking up there, I'm just along for the ride, but I think we could do anything.
People are into Halloween and horror films and just being scared as a way of being entertained, because it's kind of a way to, kind of deal with your fear. It's a way for them to face things and feel emotions. And when you get really scared, there's a chemical reaction. You can feel the adrenaline. And there's just something liberating, I think, about experiencing that but not actually being in any danger. Like you look at people in a haunted house, you know, when a monster comes out, they get scared, and what do they do? The first thing after they get scared and scream is they start laughing, you know?
Maybe because it's personifying a certain, maybe people have dark thoughts or bad dreams or something. This is somewhat of a personification, and you know, we have a certain quality to the work, and when we ship it out and they put it in the haunted house, and then the artisans of the haunted house, you know, the scenic artists will put it in an environment, and so this, you're walking through in an environment that, you know, I think people could, like, you know, reach out and touch and feel it and smell it.
Separation from reality, you know, you can kind of control the fear and also thrive off of it and feel a little bit of something that's controlled.
Well, I think maybe it does go back to darkness, you know. I think, you know, thousands of years ago when we were cavemen, the unknown is, you know, what was beyond the fire, what was beyond, you know, what we could see. And, you know, back then there were monsters. There were, you know, saber-toothed tigers and, you know, all manners of things that could come grab you and eat you. It was just a matter of survival.
It's that entertainment going through somebody's dream, possibly.
When I think of like the stuff that we build, I think we're trying to like achieve like the sublime in a sense.
Everyone's going to be different when it comes to what gets a reaction out of them. I know a lot of people really off-put by clowns. Some people have a fear of doctors, illness, disease. The world, there's a lot of anxiety, fear, negative feelings, and then you're able to see a horror movie or go to a haunted house, and then you're in control of getting that feeling. It's not just life throwing things at you, like you're actively seeking it out. Horror is a beautiful thing. It's dark, spooky, macabre. It embraces all of the worst facets of the world and helps put them into a controlled environment that people can consume. I love that.
For me personally, I don't think I will ever feel content as an artist. If I ever do, I'll probably quit doing this. Because I don't know if I'd be able to create compelling work. I must have made tens of thousands of monsters at this point, but I feel like I learn a little something from each one. I mean, those things have probably been living inside my head since, you know, I was 5 years old. I don't know, I'm gonna be 50 this year, so at this point in my career, I am, you know, starting to kind of feel like maybe I am gonna run out of time. Like, you know, I have all these monsters in my head that I'm trying to get out into the real world, and, you know, I'm starting to think that maybe I don't have enough time to do it. If there is one thing that I've really learned from all my years running Unit 70 is that you shouldn't really be too fixated on what other people think. You should always kind of listen to yourself, you know, just be able to objectively observe the situation and the challenges that are presented, and not get kind of trapped in a certain way of thinking. I don't know who said this, and I'm going to paraphrase the exact saying, but there's something like some saying about how luck is just basically preparation and opportunity. So I think that is really important, you know, just preparing yourself, practicing and training, and just being ready, you know, to seize any opportunity that comes along. If there is a secret formula, I think it's just having the skills and having yourself set up to a point where when, you know, opportunity comes, when a client comes and wants to hire you, you're able to jump on that opportunity and make the most of it. I guess for me, my definition of success is just spending as much of your life as possible in the flow state. You know, if you can do that, I mean, that's what rock stars do, that's what professional athletes do, that's what, you know, professional artists do, hopefully. So that's kind of always my goal. When I get up in the morning, you know, I am hoping to get into that flow state at some point in that day. You can go in there and just be so focused on your job, and that you kind of forget where you're at, or, you know, you no longer are experiencing the environment that you're in. You don't hear what's going on. You're not thinking about the time. I think that just is really healthy. You know, I think that's really good for the human body, like physically and mentally. I mean, we've got almost close to 1,000 products on our website now. Some of these sculptures, like I know I made them, but I don't have a conscious memory of doing it. It's almost like I come out of that flow state and there's a work of art in front of me, and it's a really weird, out of body kind of experience. It's a very psychedelic kind of experience. Well, Unit 70 is my life's work, absolutely. It's a part of me, it's kind of inseparable from who I am. I've made a lot of things, as an artist, but I think Unit 70 itself is my proudest creation. Really proud of all the people that work here too. I'm just so happy and so lucky that I have such a great crew right now. And I feel like just all the challenges over the years have all, they all kind of led me to this point. I have the awesome building and the awesome team that I always wanted to. As a child when I was reading Fangoria magazine, dreaming about owning my own company. Everybody has, responsibilities and bills to pay, and just to walk away from a steady job that allows you to pay your bills, and that's definitely a scary thing. But life is just a finite opportunity that we all have, and I usually encourage people to go out and pursue their dreams. And as far as advice to my younger self, I really wish I had taken some kind of like accounting class or bookkeeping, or knew something about taxes, because obviously I have to hire other people to do that for me. I think having some base knowledge of that would help me help them. But yeah, that's the one thing, if I could go back and do and change anything, I would take a class in taxes and accounting.